open this bond hearing meeting. To begin with, we have another meeting directly following this, which is the review of the budget. And I will ask Andrew Grossi to come up and speak to this first issue, which is the bond. And I'll just read to you, it's the Sewer Storm Water Roadway Project Bond 2018. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2 million for the purpose of repair and replacement of sewer lines within the existing wastewater collection system and any other costs related thereto, and to authorize the issuance of bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest. Thank you. Oh, yes, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
So Article 2 is for a study on sub-area 5. The various subsections of the sewer. Sub-area 5 was determined to be the most immediate concern. And I'm going to let Andrea take it over from here. You want me to hit button?
Sure. Andrew, that's Article 3 now.
Article 3.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Andrea Day from Dufresne Group. And I'm going to go over the Sub-Area 5 project and present some general information to get you all up to speed on what the bond vote is for. Go ahead. So the project area is called Sub-Area 5 from a previous report, but it encompasses a portion of Union Street as shown there, Pine Street, Chiswick, and Cross Avenues. It was identified through a previous study that measured flow in manholes throughout the whole wastewater collection system and compared flow during dry periods where there's no precipitation and then wet periods to identify areas that are experiencing a large amount of inflow and infiltration from stormwater and groundwater. Generally, inflow is catch basins that may be connected to the wastewater system or other more direct means. Infiltration is, say, the groundwater comes up in the spring and the sewer system, the pipes and the manholes are in poor condition, and it will infiltrate into the sewer system, and then ultimately it reaches the wastewater treatment plant. It's a major concern for municipalities because you have to treat that water, even though it's groundwater and it wasn't originally contaminated. Well, now it's part of the wastewater system, and all of a sudden your flow is dramatically increased. The capacity of the wastewater treatment plant, or the design capacity, is 1.5 million gallons per day. I got some information from the operator, and generally the plant runs around 600,000 gallons a day, but there have been several instances, generally whenever there's rain, a heavy rainstorm that may occur over multiple days, you can see a significant spike in the influent at the plant. There was, in September 2015, there were 2 days of heavy rain, and the flow entering the plant was over 2.8 million gallons a day. That's almost twice the design capacity of the system, or design flow for the plant. There was another event in February of this past year where after 2 days of rain, it was up at 1.8. So that's significant, going from 600,000 to 1.8 or 2.8 million gallons a day. So that tells you that there's a lot of water getting into the wastewater collection system that isn't wastewater, but then it needs to be treated like it, so that can be costly. So go ahead. These are a couple of examples of why. So the pipe on the left, that's a pipe that's in the wastewater collection system with a significant in it. That's a clay tile pipe. Those pipes are notorious for having cracks. They're very brittle. You know, if you're doing construction and you come across clay tile pipe, generally it needs to be replaced as soon as it's exposed because it is very brittle and will just break. And so most of the pipe in this area of town that we're looking at is clay tile. And that there is a manhole. You can see kind of the weeping of water coming in around the joint there. So that's all contributing to that spike in flow due to groundwater and stormwater. Go ahead. So we evaluated some alternatives to address this. We started by TVing all the sewer mains and doing inspections of all the manholes to get an idea of what the existing condition is so that we could then evaluate what's the best way to fix it. The project that we're proposing, that we're recommending based on our review of the condition of the materials, is replacement of sewer mains on those cross streets, Cross, Chiswick, and Pine, and new manholes, new sewer services within the right-of-way, and providing storm services within the right-of-way so that if people have their roof drains or a sump pump that is tied into their sewer service currently, they will now have a stub to connect into to eliminate putting that flow into the wastewater collection system. We are proposing Union Street to be rehabilitated, which consists of putting a liner in it. As you all know, Union Street's a pretty busy street, and to dig that whole street up would be very disruptive to the community, as well as very costly. And from our review of the main on Union Street, we should be able to put what's called a cast-in-place pipe, where they put a liner in there and fill it with hot air or water, and it cures to create a lining to prevent that water from entering the pipe. Okay. So to date, we have reviewed, there was the report done previously that looked at all the areas of town and identified this particular area as having the highest amount of infiltration and inflow per foot of pipe throughout the entire wastewater collection system. That was step one. Step two, we completed our evaluation of the system and our report, which we've received some comments from rural development. We're addressing those comments. And step 3, 4, and 5 on here are the next steps. We have an application started with rural development to apply for grant and loan funds to fund the final design and construction. And then we need a successful bond vote to move this forward. And then it becomes on paper and in the ground, so design and construction. So those are the next steps to this process. The project costs. So we have main replacement, sewer main replacement, we have manhole replacement, we have sewer services, we have storm services, we have surface restoration. So wherever there's excavation, we've got to put the materials back and repave, and then we have full width overlay. So the full width of the street will be paved. And then the costs, we include a contingency, engineering fees, and then there's legal and administrative fees that go along with processing all the paperwork. But ultimately, the total project cost for 2018 construction is estimated at $1.996, so just shy of $2 million. This project is a benefit, as I discussed earlier, because it's increasing the flow to the wastewater treatment plant, which then you have to pay to be treated, even though it's didn't start out as wastewater. Because you saw the slide earlier with the picture of that main that was cracked, that's a risk where, someday that main could get into such poor condition that it actually collapses, and then Joe has to go out there at 2 a.m. And I don't think any of us want a sewer backup into our house. And so that's something, the condition of this main is not going to improve until it's replaced or rehabilitated. There's also with the condition of these mains is the risk of wastewater actually leaking out and into the groundwater. And then a lot of these manholes are smaller than the standard manhole that's currently installed, which makes access difficult. So we looked at 3 different alternatives for financing. Just local borrowing at 3.5% would, for a 30-year term, would require about a 12.7% rate increase. The next source of funding is the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. This project is listed in the fundable range on their priority list, and they have provided a offer of, I think it was about $292,000 of grant of, it's not grant, but they call it principal forgiveness. That equates to about 15%. And taking all that into consideration, that's about a 9.4% rate increase. We also looked at rural development. Littleton is in the median household income puts you at the poverty level for the way that rural development looks at it, which is good news for their funding because that makes this project eligible for up to 45% grant. And they have historically low interest rates at 1.875% right now. So with rural development, it would be approximately a 5% rate increase. The previous study that we're just finishing up to evaluate the alternatives was actually funded by a grant from Rural Development. They have a program for communities that have lower incomes, and that provided $30,000 towards that study. So they have some great programs in place, and it'd be wonderful if the community could take advantage of those programs. In summary, the project will reduce the flow to the wastewater treatment plant. This is just one area of town. There's many other areas, but this was the worst from the previous study per foot of pipe for infiltration. It was actually 3 times what they consider is, 4,000 gallons per day per inch mile. It was about 12,000. So it was 3 times what what they consider is average for infiltration. It'll improve the reliability and reduce potential operation and maintenance issues for the system. And one of the points that we always try and get across to communities is this project is going to have to be done. Whether it's done now or later, the cost is only going to increase over time. And with the 5% rate increase for if the USDA rural development with the 45% grant, that's only about $28 a year for the average customer. So ultimately, it's something that's going to have to be done. It's maintenance on your system, and we just hope that you can all support it. So great, thank you.
Take questions, or we just yeah. Do we have any questions about the wastewater bond?
Okay, the local interest rate of 3.5, that seems pretty high for the town that we get lately. Have the rates gone up, or is it just the kind of a...
Karen, answer that.
Yeah, that's just an estimated conservative rate. Yeah, we didn't actually go to the bank and ask them what they would do.
I actually did. I just took a quick request. I sent a quick request to a couple of banks, and what I found out is we could do a GAN loan. It's a grant anticipation note on $1.6 million. We have to pay it back within a year, so that construction would have to happen quick. The interest rate on that would be 1.6%. The interest due at the end of the year, once it closes, would be $25,600, and that's the rate as of right now. Of course, rates can change. I also looked at town share, example, $400,000. If we took a loan for 3 years, the interest rate was 1.92%. If we took a loan for 5 years on that, the interest rate is 2.29%. So we would have a choice of which to go with. These rates are reasonable, and I try to negotiate with the banks for the best rate possible. So there's a little further information.
And we're not, rural development will provide an offer essentially once the application is completed. And so then we have the ability to look at all of the options and select the most advantageous funding.
And so with the grants available through the Clean Water Fund and the USDA Rural Development, the taxpayers will be on the hook for about $300,000 is the estimate. And the sewer users would be paying about that, maybe plus a little more, maybe about another $100,000. And it would be included as part of our 2018 pavement plan. So we usually spend, I think, around $400 to $700 in paving. But this would basically be able to take those funds that we would typically be using for paving and push for more, would be getting more with that same amount of money, so. Rudy?
How long this project has been on the table?
I believe Milton actually could speak to that one better.
Because we don't know that last year or in a meeting before this meeting over here, I will have to know this project has been on the table.
The original engineering was done in 2012.
2012.
Yeah, and the engineering firm met with us, I think it was in September of 2012, yes, because they did it in late 2011 going into 12. And they presented the entire problem, so to speak, or where all the systems were and where the biggest problems were. And to say this judiciously, they never came back. They never came back, and years went by until we finally decided we had to bring in a new firm, which we brought in. So this could have started in 2013, perhaps, in the spring, but it just sat there on the desk, and they didn't come back for.
This is meant for 2012 to 2017. You guys got this amount, very huge amount of money for the taxpayers. And, I don't want to hear no bound, no grants and stuff like that, because you know better than I do, we got to pay for this stuff from here. But anyway, from 2012, you guys got, this project on the table, and never talk about, eventually, for the town, a little town, right, to get this amount of money to fix the problem. You guys waited 5 years.
I'm the only guy that did that. These guys weren't there, okay? I'm the only one left from the original board. The other two are gone. There were phases, as there are now. There were, I think, 3 or 4 different phases. This plan covers most of what they had as priority 1 piping problems. And we had talked about it at select board meetings back then. But the first phase was never initiated, Rudy, and the town manager at the time called them. There were delays. They had some staffing issues, apparently, whatever it was, but it clearly went too long. As we've said before, this is a really big deal because it's going to affect our entire community within a relatively short time frame of a few years, where we have to begin to address all of these piping problems for the reasons that have been stated. But we kept waiting for them to make the phone call, and they didn't. And it wasn't until a year and a half ago or so that we finally connected with a new firm. The other town manager was still here at the time. I think it was maybe even 2 years ago, but whatever it was. And so now we've got the first phase addressed, so to speak, in terms of what we'd like to do.
Doesn't mean everything that you guys do now is going to go on top of what we discussed in the last meeting.
Right.
Infrastructure, $2 million over there, 500,000 over there, 900,000 over there. I mean, I don't know, man. think we gotta start to build, spending money, and just taking it to the town, maybe,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. De Palma.
In addition to what's already been stated about how this job is going to needs to happen, what is sooner or later going to be stated, is to reiterate Andrew's point that we're going to get curb-to-curb paving, rebuilding of these roads that we need to do anyway. So on top of the sewer work that has to happen, the infrastructure has to happen, we're going to get curb-to-curb paving. That's a huge impact to our paving budget as we go forward with our public works project. That said, talk about the treatment plant we have. All this rainwater, this groundwater infiltration, inflow that Andrea spoke of, when it hits the treatment plant, we have to pay for it. On top of that, there's a finite amount that we can accept there, and we're getting closer. And it's gonna, not only not doing this job is gonna just kick the can down the road. It's gonna have to be done eventually. We're not gonna be able to expand the town tax base with industrial park growth or more subdivisions or more housing or more commercial development as this treatment plant nears capacity. It can't exceed 80% of its operating capacity. And Andrea stated there are some days when we are exceeding that. During a lot of rain, when we have a lot of rain, a lot of infiltration, when we get over 80%, if you have a 3-month average, a 3-month constant over 80%, DES can come into the town of Littleton and just tell us, you are going to upgrade that plant. They can suggest it, but then at some point they mandate we have to upgrade the plant. So kicking the can down the road does two things. It impacts our infrastructure in the streets that we have to maintain and live with every day. 3 things. It limits the growth of the town. And then at some point, if these pipes don't cure themselves, I've never seen one that does. The more water that gets in there, the higher the water inflow results at the plant. Eventually, you're going to have to buy a plant too, or upgrade the plant. Not buy a plant, that was incorrect. You'd have to have a serious upgrade at the plant. And there's no upgrade that I could foresee down there that would cost less than $8 to $12 million to get us to the gallons per day that we need to sustain this town. So it's the infrastructure in the street, and then it's what's happening at the plant. That's the point I just wanted to clear and make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, Ron?
When it says this is a 2018 project, does that mean when the work would occur or when the funding would kick in?
When the funding would kick in, right.
So the work could be done in 2017.
That's when the work would occur.
The work would be, but the money would kick in.
We're submitting an application at the end of this month.
Okay, so it could kick in earlier. I'm sorry, it's the work that would begin in 2018. So what does that mean in terms of what's on the bond, though, in terms of impact on the tax rate?
Nothing on 17.
Nothing in 17. So it would affect in 2018. There's nothing in 2017.
So out of the $2 billion, some of that would from these bonds and grants and whatnot, the town would have a share of that.
Right.
Is there money in the sewer fund that could be applied to this?
Yeah.
There is.
I think what we were estimating, and we'll have a harder figure once we get a little further along, was that the sewer fund would likely contribute between $300,000 and $400,000 to the project. The taxpayers for their portion of the pavement, and this is an estimate, would contribute about $300,000. With the remainder coming from grants.
And the ratepayers portion?
Yeah, that would be the about $400,000. That's an estimate.
For the taxpayers, but the ratepayers for sewer, if the. You
Go
want
ahead.
up there?
Yeah, please do.
If the sewer portion of this comes from the reserve funds from the sewer, as of right now, I'm estimating at the end of this year, we'll have $423,907 in that fund. It may be a little bit more than that. We were able to get some grant money for some projects that happened in the past. This grant money is from projects that happened about 7 or 8 years ago. And these grants were submitted and requested, and we never received the money. We started receiving the money this year, and that was about $80,000 that we received. So we're able to put some money back into our sewer funds to help out, hopefully, with more projects, and this would be one of those.
Other questions? I'm going to leave this, we have to leave this open until 6:07. We've started at 5:07. But I'll now move into the budget portion of this meeting tonight. And Andrew, or are you going to start with these budget portions? Sorry, this was commercial free. If we had a commercial, we could at least try to sell you something, but can't do that. There you go.
Want me to read the warrant article while we're waiting?
Starting with this, I can do that. Actually, I've got it right here. You can take it. There you go. What I'll do, because we're going to begin with the budget here, is just read it to you. Article 4, 2017 operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein totaling $8,730,879. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $8,666,901, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral 10 through and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated tax impact $7.58.6 per thousand. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the budget committee 4-0.
Okay. Are there any questions on the operating budget? All right, seeing none, I'll go on to police department safety equipment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of purchasing, installing, and improving police cruisers with updated safety communications equipment, and to authorize the withdrawal of $5,000 from the special detail fund, revenue fund, and further to authorize the police chief to trade in or sell equipment. No tax impact. Recommended by the selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0.
Andrew, I do have a general question. Did you or the selectmen have any philosophy or goal set when this budget was built?
Well, I would say that in general, what we did was go through line by line and take a look at what was expended last year and also look at what pending needs were for the future. We were able to keep it pretty tight. Karen can speak to what the final percentages came out at. Our proposed and default are pretty close.
If you got your information up at the table that was at the back of the room, you've got a copy of the public hearing budget for 1/17/2017. If you look in that budget, on the page it says 3 of 43 and 4 of 43, you're going to see the totals by department. And you're going to see what the proposed budget is, what the default budget is, the difference between the TM, which is Town Manager's 2017 budget, and the 2016 adjusted budget. Some of the lines are gray, a very light gray, if you can see it. On the right-hand side, those items are either the same or 1% or less of a change in the budget. The negative ones, of course, are savings along that budget. The total default, as read in the Warren article, is $8,666,901. The difference between the default and last year's adjusted, because there's a few Warren articles that affected the budget, is $124,233. That's a 1.45% adjustment. The 2017 proposed budget is a difference between last year's adjusted budget of $188,211. So the difference from last year's adjusted budget to this year's proposed budget is 2.2%. The difference between the default and this year's proposed budget is $63,978, which is 0.74% difference. Now on the top, on that table as you come in, there was a list, it was a shorter list, one page, that was a list of the default adjustments and changes. And it went through and showed where things had changed in the default budget, various departments, auditing services changed, and the total changes, as I said, was $124,234, making up the default budget of $8,666,901. Then you're going to see a sheet here. The longer sheet is the difference between the proposed budget and the default budget. So in some lines, we were able to cut a few things after looking at previous history on the budget, coming up with an $8,730,878 number. If you look again at that page 4 of 43, the estimated tax rate, if we use 2016's values, for the default budget is $7.48 per thousand. The proposed budget is $7.59 per thousand. It's a 10-cent difference. Last year's budget affected the tax rate by $7.29, just the budget with those Warren articles that affected the budget. As you go through this budget, you're going to see different descriptions on different lines that match up a lot with what was on these one-page summaries. Does that explain what you were asking, Ron?
Numerically, I was looking for some goals and objectives for whether this was, as Andrew said, just look at last year's budget and see where
There wasn't a goal of trying to keep as level funded because the tax rate had increased so highly this last year, to try to stay as level funded as we could.
I would just reiterate that the $2.59 was, as we all know, a pretty large impact. It's an 11% adjustment in our taxes, so the three of us and the town manager and the financial director looked very closely at all of our items. We have, as you know, 2 labor agreements this year as well that we have to try to get through, and of course we have regular paving that we would like to try to do as well. So within the context of that $2.59, we put together this budget, if that's a philosophy, and I think it is.
Are there any questions on any further questions on the budget? Any questions on the police department safety equipment? Okay, next one. Highway Department light duty truck, 3-year lease.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Went back to 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's no vehicle being purchased in 2017?
Yep, in 2017, what we've done is put the vehicle into the budget.
PD budget,
Mm-hmm, into the operating budget.
going back and forth over these years.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So on the Highway Department light-duty truck 3-year lease, Article 6, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 3-year lease agreement in the amount of $100,000 for the purpose of leasing a new used light-duty truck for the Highway Department, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement has an escape clause. Estimated tax impact is 4.2 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Select Board 2-1. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions about that? Mary?
I have a question on pretty much all of these warrant articles. The Budget Committee voted 4-0. And how many people are on the Budget Committee? 8?
I believe it's a total of 9.
So 4 is not a quorum. So
It didn't always have a full budget committee, and the chairman of the budget committee does not vote unless he needs to break a tie. That's how you get 4-0. They had a quorum. Pardon?
At 5. I see.
Quorum's 5. But the chairman, the reason you don't get it all is the chairman doesn't vote unless it's a tie, and he's done that for a number of years, right or wrong. That's his choice. I'd just like to piggyback on that. That's a pretty pathetic performance by the budget committee. It's supposed to be 9 people, we only have 4 people vote, less than half of it. I know it's illegal, I just think it's inappropriate when major items come up that they can't make the meeting. If they can't make the meeting, you shouldn't be on the budget.
Yeah,
I think they had a whole bunch of them sick at one of the
Sick,
meetings.
they never show up. What the hell are you talking about?
they had at least,
What's sick?
Rudy, they had at least 7 or 8 at every meeting. That particular night, there were people who were sick. There were also some engagements people had that they couldn't be there, but I think most of it occurred because of illness. They wound up with 5 people there, which made the quorum, but as Selectman Sweet explained, his habit had been not to vote unless he was breaking a tie. So it doesn't look right, but apparently it was okay. But for the most part, the Budget Committee this year has had good attendance.
Okay, any questions on the Highway Department light-duty truck? Okay, Article 7, full-time highway employee, 9 months individual, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,867 for the purpose of increasing the current level of staffing for the Highway Department. The 9-month estimated cost is $40,867. The full year cost is estimated to be $54,711. And if approved, the full cost will be available to the 2018 default and proposed budget. Estimated tax impact is 6.9 cents per thousand, recommended by Selectmen 2-1, recommended by Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions?
I don't have a problem with this, but could we get
Want to get some?
information on what this will, how this will benefit?
Mhm. Yep. Joe, would you like to speak to that?
Just put that right. Ron, you should repeat the question again?
I said I don't have any problem with the concept, but could you expand a little bit on how this will be manifested in services?
Before my time, it was, the department had a, 3-man layoff, and we haven't got three guys back, okay, and the population growth data doesn't support my argument. The town isn't growing by leaps and bounds, but the daytime population of people using our roads does support the argument. It's way up. There's a lot of extra use, extra needs with my department now. Talking about winter services, the plowing routes have been expanded as we've lost guys, so each guy does a little more, which we've been able to do. We have an aging workforce. We've had some issues with health issues with one guy calls in sick. We're in a disaster mode. We're doing the 2 or 3 inch storm. And we would really feel this position would give us greater flexibility. We'd be a safer community in the wintertime with closer to staffing we had before. In the summertime, the guys use all their vacation time. They can't take vacation in the wintertime. It's mandatory on call from November till April. So in the summertime, in addition to being down those 3 guys, the rest of the guys are taking their vacations, which we want them to because they can't take it in the wintertime. So it would help us twofold. It would make us much more safe in the wintertime. The summertime, I'd have some guys available. Some days we only have a couple of guys in the garage, and that's by design with the vacations. The third thing it'll do, Ron, is each truck is getting used that much more because if a person has 5 miles of road to plow, and now and you lay off one of the guys, now that person has 7.5 miles of road to plow, and then you multiply that by a few years, and don't replace the trucks. And so now you have aged workforce, aged truck fleet, and extra use on the trucks. It's compounding the problem. So we really feel this is required and necessary to keep the town at the levels of to maintain the level of service we have right now. This guy would be key.
Thank you. Any other questions on the part-time department summer labor or did we actually didn't do that one yet? I'm sorry. On the full-time highway employee? Okay. Article 8, part-time highway department summer labor individual, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of hiring a part-time summer laborer in the highway department. If approved, the part-time labor cost will be added to the 2018 default and proposed budget. Estimated tax impact, 1.4 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen 2-1. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions on Article 8? Seeing none. Article 9, road improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for the purpose of repairing and improving various roads in town. Estimated tax impact is 2.08 cents per thousand. Recommended by Selectmen 3-0, recommended by Budget Committee 4-0. And the reason that we're only asking for 150 this year is because we will have so many other road projects already happening along Amanuset Street and other public works projects, including the Safe Routes to School program and potentially the TAP, if we can, the Transportation Alternative grant that we just received. The road, I don't know if Joe wants to speak, give a little more detail on the road that we do plan on using this 150 for.
We identified some roads in town. I'm sure you all have identified roads in town that could use some work. The industrial park road and drive is ready right now to be the perfect time to be shimmed and overlaid. It's not the worst road in town, that's for sure. But right now, that's perfect time. It's a perfect timing, construction timing, to apply a skim coat of asphalt, shim coat of asphalt, and then an overlay of 1 inch or 2 of pavement to bring that road up to standards and to stop it from decaying any further. A couple more years from now, we'd be looking at reclaiming, grinding the road up, and doing other work there to bring it back up. So right now, we're catching that one at the right time. We have a lot of done a lot of looking at that road and what else it would need. Sewer's in pretty good shape. We did a lot of cleaning and inspection down there, so we're not going to be digging it up 2 years from now. I don't believe. If we were to pave it now, we wouldn't be digging it the next couple of years. There is some work that needs to happen before we could pave near the Lisbon town line. A lot of that we could do ourselves. There's some under drain like to put in. There's some ditching can be done. A little bit of reclaiming out there before we can pave it. It's real rough on the Lisbon town line and coming in. It's a high-use road. There's a lot of people in the town that work in the industrial park come to the town, and we identified that as one of the best ones to look at. We also have some other roads in town that we're looking at as well. Some of them are tied up with sewer issues, and out of town we've looked at Partridge Lake a little bit, and Foster Hill sections of that as real. And George McNamara has identified that one as a good out-of-town road to look at, and I've agreed, and we've done a lot of work out there in preparation for possibly doing some paving. We've already dug some test holes to see what the soil is underneath the road, to see if it's worth it to even do any work to it. Does it have to be totally redone? Cutting brush back, things like that. So we're looking at the industrial park for one, and into Mount Eustis, and those would be the two that we're really looking at.
Are there any questions on the road improvements? Article 10, transfer station repair replacement equipment. I think it's supposed to be, building, it cut it off on my thing. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $16,000 to replace, fix, purchase, and maintain equipment, buildings, containers, vehicle, and purchase of additional supply of bags, and to authorize the withdrawal of $16,000 from the transfer station special reserve fund, created for the above purposes. The funds will be utilized as follows: $8,000 for a new open-top container, $4,000 for a used MSW container, $1,000 for an open-top area improvement, and $2,000 for maintenance and repairs, $1,000 for small improvements. There is no tax impact. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions of the transfer station? Article 11, transfer station, baler, and conveyor. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Selectmen to enter into a 3-year lease agreement in the amount of $100,000 for the purpose of leasing a new or used baler and conveyor system at the transfer station, and to raise the appropriate sum of $30,000 for the first year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. Estimated tax impact is 4.2 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen 2-1. Recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions on the baler? We can just a brief side note, this is a very important piece of equipment. The one that we have is no longer, there's no longer easily accessible parts. We did have some issues with it in the previous year. Without this piece of equipment, the cost of operating a transfer station would rise significantly just because of the amount of tonnage that we could get in one transported load. the baler bales everything from plastics to, all the products pretty much, except for solid waste. Article 12. I'm going to have Karen come and speak to the union contracts and union agreements. She's got additional details and I believe a breakout point for each. I'll go ahead and read the article. Yeah. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost item included in the collective bargaining agreement for 2 years reached between the Board of Selectmen and the State Employees Association Local 1984, which calls for the following increases in salaries, benefits, and current staffing level. 2017, increase of $7,281. 2018, $21,529. In 2019, $6,392. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,000 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits over those appropriation at current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year, pursuant to RSA 272A12-7. If approved, the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, including the pay plan, but excluding the cost of living increases, will continue in force and effect until the new agreement is executed. Estimated tax impact, 1 cent. Recommended by the Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. 1 abstain.
On the SEA agreement, we're entering into a 2-year agreement. It would start April 1st of this year, of 2017, and the contract would end on March 31st, 2019. The increases to the union wages is 1 step plus $1.50 for each certified officer the first year of the contract. This amounts for a 9-month period to about $30,122. We also have significant savings in the insurance plans. We have a new insurance plan that we're offering. They're going from a low deductible insurance plan to an insurance plan that's still a moderate deduction, $1,000 for single, $2,000 for 2-person, and $3,000 for family. And the numerous employees that have notified me of their changes, it would mean a savings to the town the first year of $23,059. We also have a change in disability insurance. Instead of having a waiting period of 3 days on their disability insurance, they're going to a waiting period of 10 days. It saves about $2,090. Added in their contract this year is a stipend for master patrol officer. The amount of that at worst case scenario is $608. The uniform cost is increasing from $600 to $700 a year per individual in the contract. So that's $1,000 additional cost. The longevity pay, we're going to be increasing the longevity pay about $100 for those per year for those between 5 and 10 years of service. That amounts to about $700 in 2017. So the total cost for the first 9 months of the contract, $7,281. The second year of the contract, the employees will be getting a 2.5% increase. The amount of that increase for the second year for 9 months, because it starts April 1st, is $20,991. Plus, they will have their increase that started the previous year for the first 3 months of 2017, $10,040. There's still going to be additional savings on the insurance because the employee will be paying a larger premium. Their premiums will be increasing from 14% to 15.2%, excuse me, 15.5%. So the savings in the second year is $9,503. So the second year contract is $21,529. And then there'll be a small amount that will be in 2019. Their remaining part of their raise that they got effective April will carry through, $6,997. There'll be some additional savings of $605 in the insurance end, making the 2019 amount for this contract $6,392.
Thanks. I just had one question on the employee portion that they're paying. Is it increasing just in the second year? Or are they at 14% the first year, or is it the 15.5 for both years?
Their current insurance, they're paying 12.5% of the premium, and that's on their driver plan. They have a driver plan that has a low deductible. A majority of them are switching over to the higher deductible because they pay less in premiums. So they're going from 12.5 to 14% the first year on that driver plan.
Yes.
Yeah, just to remind me, the first year, you said that the benefits for the second year is only a 2.59% increase, or the pay. But if we take the benefits out of there, the first year, 2017, amounts to a 4-point-something pay increase, and the second year, if I remember right, amounts to a 6.09% pay increase. So just looking at the actual salary itself.
For the salary itself, the first year, the certified officers are getting a 6.16% raise.
For 2017.
For 2017.
Okay.
And in 2018, for their wages, including benefits, because there's wage-related benefits, is a 4.07% increase.
Andrew, let's get this, both of those contracts loaded up to the website in PDF format, highlighted and italicized to what you gave away and what we got in that, so we can review that. That should be public. We're voting on it.
We have redlined contracts in the office if somebody wants to pick one up, and we'll see what we can do about loading it up.
Thank you. Rudy?
This is, I don't know if you guys are gonna accept, no, but it's just, you know, something that I was thinking about. All these, you know, warrant articles, it's like this one, you know, that you guys explain. Would you mind to put on the bottom, what is the total of the budgeting for the police station, for the, you know, DOT garage, for anything? I would love it to see the people that when they go vote, they see actually what is the budget of these entities that we support. That you tell me that are gonna cost the 1.3 pennies a year. People don't understand that. I mean, I don't understand. And I can bet a lot of people don't understand either. If you would have put it, you know, it's just a suggestion. If you would have put it on every warrant articles, the amount that these entities run on a budget year after year, it would have been really appreciated.
Thank you, Rudy. Just to answer that a little bit, the language that's in the warrant articles has to be approved by the Department of Revenue Administration, and so this language has to specifically be stated in this way. But to your point, the budget itself is available for you to take a look at, and it does have the entire amount for each department broken down. Yeah.
You got 3,400 people, or, electoral voter that they don't know about this stuff out here. It's, it wasn't just a suggestion.
But, yeah, I don't think that would be the question, why 2 years instead of 3?
The Affordable Care Act was set to kick in with the, it's called the Cadillac tax, is what they were calling it. And 2018 was that year. And so we wanted the flexibility to be able to renegotiate any of the potential costs that could come into play on that tax so that taxpayers wouldn't be held responsible and the employees would have their skin in that game. So.
Also, I heard a new term there, Master Patrol Officer. Get a definition of what that is.
So the chief's not here, but I can speak to it briefly. The Master Patrol Officer is a training and certification program that's in the police department's policy, and it's voluntary that an officer goes through it. And in the past, that hasn't been recognized with any kind of a financial benefit. It's a benefit in the quality of employee that you have out there and trained. But in the past, I think it was just a pen. So we're trying to encourage more officers to go through the program and reward those that do.
Are there any final questions regarding the bond? The topic we began at 5 o'clock this afternoon. We have now gone 1 hour, and if there's any remaining questions, we can answer those right now. Otherwise, I will close the bond hearing. Hearing none, I'm closing the bond hearing. Thank you.
Okay, Article 15, Special Town Meeting, non-monetary. Shall the Town of Littleton, if Article 14 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special at its option to address Article 14, cost items only, no tax impact, 60% majority vote required, recommended by the Selectmen, 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0. Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry, Article 13. Which is the same, but I'll read it through anyways. Shall the Town of Littleton, if Article 12 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 12, cost items only, 60% majority vote required, no tax impact, recommended by the Selectmen, 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee, 3-1. You have any questions on that one? Okay, I'm going to have Karen come and speak to Article 14. I'll go ahead and read it first. Article 14, ASME Collective Bargaining Agreement. To see if the town will vote to approve the cost item included in the 2-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 93, Local 1348, which calls for the following increases in salaries, benefits at the current staffing level. 2017, $5,969, 2018, $12,670, and 2018, $3,649. And to further raise and appropriate the sum of $5,969 for the current fiscal year. Such sum represented additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries, benefits for the current fiscal year. Such sum representing additional costs attributed to the increase in salaries benefits over those of the appropriation at the current staffing levels paid in the prior fiscal year pursuant to RSA 273A12 if approved. The terms of this collective bargaining agreement, including the pay plan but excluding costs of living increase, will continue in force and effect until the new agreement is executed. Estimated tax impact is 0.8 cents. Recommended by the Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-0.
Again, this is very similar to the SEA contract. The wage increase for the first year is one step, 2.58. With benefits and wage increases, this is for 9 months, it's $15,966. The savings on insurance, again, the similar situation. The savings on insurance amounts to a minus of $12,778. Just to note, we are doing away with what is considered the basically no deductible plan. That plan's being eliminated. The high deductible plan that we have right now, that's a $5,000 deductible plan, actually costs more than the $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000 plan. So that will be going away as well. Uniform costs is another additional change. We included wild brush fire pants for the fire department. They cost about $60 a year, and we have 6 pair that we're buying, so there's $300 there. Other departments included in this contract, which include the fire department, highway department, and transfer station, we've increased the safety-toed boots. They were at $300 a year because we buy 2 pair, 1 winter, 1 summer. We're increasing that cost by $50. We have 10 individuals, so this will affect, so it's $500 more. In the fire department, we've added a call stipend for Sundays only. There'll be 1 full-time firefighter that will be on call every Sunday, and they will get $50 to be on call, meaning that they can't leave the area. They need to stay within a certain area of the town of Littleton and respond. So that cost is $1,978, which makes your first year of the contract $5,968. The second year of the contract, the first 3 months, of course, are including that other raise that was given, $5,322. They get a no step, but they get an increase in their wage of 2.5%. That amount for the 9 months of 2018 is $15,470. They have savings in the second year because they're increasing the employee share of their premium. The savings in the second year is $8,782. And then you have 3 months of the call stipend for Sundays for the fire department, $660. So the amount of the contract for the second year is $12,670. And in 2019, we have 3 months of the raise, 3 months of the savings on insurance. So the 3 months of the raise is $5,157. The savings on insurance is $1,507, making the amount for the third year $3,649. We do have a summary, if anyone's interested, that the attorneys give us of all of the changes within the contracts. Any questions?
Again, what is the actual pay per hour salary increase for 2017?
The pay per hour for 2017 amounts to 2.58%.
Okay.
And the no step, but the raise in 2018 is 2.5%.
Okay, now Article 15, Special Town Meeting. Shall the town of Littleton, if Article 14 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special at its option to address the Article 14 cost items only. No tax impact. 60% majority vote required. Recommended by Selectmen 3-0, recommended by Budget Committee 4-0. Article 16. Unexpended Conservation Commission funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $210 to be placed in the Conservation Commission Capital Reserve Fund previously established. This amount represents unexpended portion of the Conservation Commission's 2016 appropriation. No tax impact. Recommended by the Selectmen 3-0, recommended by the Budget Committee 4-0. Any questions on Article 16. Article 17, amend lease limit amount, non-monetary, to see if the town will amend the lease restrictions that were placed on the town at the 2006 town meeting warrant, Article number 35, a 20,000 limit on leases. The amendment would increase the limit to 65,000. No tax impact, recommended by Selectmen 3-0, recommended by Budget Committee 0-0. The Budget Committee wasn't able to hear this one. And just to speak to that, the lease restrictions that were put in place in 2006, I think the intention was to help keep the voters in control of larger purchases or real estate leases. But since over 10 years have passed, we now find that the $20,000 limit prohibits us from making cost-effective changes to regular operations. For example, if we want to change our phone system, which will actually save the town money, the best way to do that is enter in a 3-year lease, but we would exceed the $20,000 amount. So the taxpayers end up not being able to get the benefits of just effectively managing the town's operations without having to go to a warrant on a town meeting vote to request authorizing a lease. So, if there's any questions on that. Article 18, Opera House Energy Reduction Improvements. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of not more than $44,200 for the purpose of demolition, for the purpose of demolition, constructions, air sealing, insulation, and insulating areas of the Littleton Opera House as identified in Energy Audit Report to reduce energy usage. Estimated cost savings to taxpayers is $3,789 gallons of propane per year. To further authorize the selectmen to apply for and accept and expend grants and other funds available for this purpose, and to establish the Board of Selectmen as the agent to expend from this fund. Estimated tax impact is 6.1 cents per thousand, recommended by Selectmen 2-1, recommended by Budget Committee 5-0. Are there any questions on Article 18? Mary?
Yes. Now, if there are grants gotten and other funds available to offset the 44,000, what happens? And 44,000 has been authorized by the voters. What happens to that 44,000?
Now, I believe that we would be expending up to 44,000 with offset from grant. I don't think we would exceed the 44 plus grant. You know, I don't think we would be adding to that amount. I don't know if Ron or maybe Peter want to speak to that.
We have submitted this to Eversource for their rebate program similar to what we did in Lighting. We haven't gotten the answer back yet. We're not expecting something as good as a 50% rebate like we did in Lighting, but there could be some amount, but we don't know how much yet. So that would reduce the $44,000. So that's just money we would not spend.
Right. My
So,
question is, what would happen?
So just to answer that, if you look at the first sentence in the article, it does say to appropriate the sum of not more than $44,200. So we would reduce that amount by the grant.
So go back to the general fund.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on Article 18? Article 19, Opera House Stage Rigging. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to install and/or replace the rigging on the stage as required at the Opera House per Safety Code NFPA 1983, and to further authorize a withdrawal of $15,000 from the Opera House Special Revenue Fund to offset the cost. No tax impact, recommended by Selectmen 2-1, recommended by Budget Committee 3-0. Are there any questions on Article 19? Yep.
Yeah, how much money is in that Opera House Special Revenue Fund?
Karen is going to answer that.
As of the end of this year, $15,099.39, and that's my estimate as of the end of 2016.
Any other questions? Mary?
Could I ask for, on the selectmen's vote 2 to 1, who were the 2?
An article in the Caledonian started by saying that Selectman Bratz, his breath was taken away when he saw the $2.59 increase in our taxes. I'm the only one who voted against a number of articles, except for maybe one. I'm most interested in having those labor agreements approved. I'm most interested in having our road repairs taken care of. I have to make a balance in my own mind as to what I personally would like to see occur. All of these requests are legitimate. I just made my decisions within the context of a big tax adjustment for us this year. So that's how I did that. Yep. Sure.
Okay, but there was no tax impact on this Article 19. There's no tax impact.
Yeah, I may have made a mistake at that point and misheard that, but it was within the context of not wanting to add to it. That's what I saw. Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 19? Article 20, Opera House maintenance and repairs. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the purpose of additional repairs, which would include repairing or replacing lead glass in the windows, a purchase and installation of camera video system in the building, and if there are any remaining funds to go toward other minor repairs. Estimated tax impact, 0.7 cents. Not recommended by the Select Board, 3-0. Not recommended by the Budget Committee, 4-1. Any questions? Article 21, Remick Park Building Replacement Fund. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $20,000 for the purpose of placing into the already established in 2015 the Remick Park Building Capital Reserve Fund. Estimated tax impact, 2.8 cents. Not recommended by Selectmen, 2-1. Not recommended by Budget Committee, 4-1. Any questions on Article 21?
How much money is in the Remick Park Building Capital Reserve Fund currently?
Currently, there's $10,000 that was put in there. I believe it wasn't it 2016 when that took place. It was 2015.
Prior to that,
Okay.
a second.
So while she's looking that up, the purpose of the fund was to replace the building up at Remick Park that right now is not open to the public. It's basically condemned. It used to be a bleacher, set of bleachers. It is 10,000. Okay.
And it was 2015.
In 2015, yeah. And so what was being looked at was using the initial, turning it into a two-phase project where the first phase would be engaging an architect, coming up with the initial drawings and plan and site selection, and then the second 20 would take the project into architectural and construction plans. Article 23, petitioned warrant article, Glenwood Cemetery Association. Nope, yep, it's mislabeled on mine, I'm sorry. To see if the town will vote to raise is 22, the Chamber of Commerce, and that's not on my sheet. Can I borrow yours, sir? Article 22, petition warrant article, Littleton Chamber of Commerce. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to support the downtown beautification efforts of Littleton Chamber of Commerce. Purchase of downtown flowers, $4,250. Watering of downtown flowers, $3,500. Downtown piano tuning and covers, $5,000. Purchase of downtown umbrellas, $400. Purchase of holiday decorations, $1,850. Estimated tax impact, 2.1 cents per thousand. Recommended by Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-1, 1 abstain. Any questions? Article 23, I should make sure mine lines up. I'm using a DRA format. Yeah. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,000 to continue repairs of the cemetery wall on West Main Street. Estimated tax impact of 2 cents per thousand. Recommended by the Selectmen, 3-0. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 8-0. Any questions on Article 23? Article 24. Petition warrant article, Littleton, oh, mine's reading. Littleton Community Center. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to support a donation to the Littleton Community Center Capital Reserve Improvement Fund towards the purchase and installation of new energy-efficient storm windows. Estimated tax impact, 2.1 cents per thousand. Not recommended by Selectmen, 3-0. Not recommended by Budget Committee, 4-0. Any questions? Article 25. Petition warrant article, library building improvement. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $15,000 to be placed in the library building improvement fund, which was created at the 2014 town meeting. Said funds to come from taxation. Estimated tax impact, 2.1 cents per thousand. Recommended by Selectmen. I've got, actually, what's that? We didn't have passed over. Oh, okay, both of these were passed over, so we voted. That's right. Yeah, the sheet needs to be. So I'll just put a correction to your sheet. Not recommended by the Select Board, and I don't believe the Budget Committee had a chance to look at it. If I'm correct. Yeah, the petition came in after their meeting. Do you have any questions on Article 25? Mary?
Say not recommended by the Selectmen.
Yep.
3-0. Well, I have a question for the select board, in that on 25 for our library building, which is town building, they don't recommend $15,000, which is needed for that building to keep it open for the public. And yet, I would like to know, and yet on Article 22, a 2-to-1, Article 22, they recommend for the Littleton Chamber of Commerce, which is not a town entity at all. It's commercial, economic businesses. They recommend $15,000. And I would like to have their thoughts and why they had those two different votes.
Speak to
And
it.
I'd like to hear from all three of them, if I may.
I can only guess at this because we didn't discuss the yeses and the nos at length or at all on a lot of these articles. What's difficult to measure here about an entity like the Chamber of Commerce is not the direct service perhaps to a person coming into the building, but the services that are rendered to the community's businesses, to the community's image. It becomes difficult to measure at certain points because you're not checking out books and you're not helping people find things within the library. You are promoting your business community and you're promoting your entire community. We, again, did not discuss this at length. We simply had this posed to us, and in fact, on the articles, the other articles that I voted no on, there were no comments made until after the voting was over, and then someone turned to me and said, "Aren't you going to follow the Budget Committee's recommendations?" And I said, "No, not within the context that I was trying to vote." This is what we did. It's clearly our choice. It's defendable only within the context of how we see the chamber. Not as more valuable than the library, but within the context of this year, within this budget, the vote came out that way. I can't give you any other example because we don't have even a tape to look at to see the rationale here. But this is how we voted. If anybody else would like to speak to this, okay.
Like Milt, I was concerned about the tax rate increase. And these votes are suggestions for our voters to look at, to see how we think, which is what you're asking. I see the tax impact of 0.021 cents, money better spent at the chamber than I do the library. That's just me.
May I ask, and why? And that why? That I'm...
Well, I think we'll get more back for what we spend at the chamber warrant than I do the library warrant.
Seeing as you want to hear from everyone, the library came in with a $15,000 request for a part-time librarian. And then at the very last minute, they withdrew that and came in with this request. And it never went before the budget committee, so we didn't think it was very well thought out, and so we voted against it. That's why I voted against it. I don't know why they voted, but that's, in essence, there was no presentation, no request. It was a very last-minute thing.
It didn't occur to you that maybe it was a last-minute thing because they realized that they needed money for the building more than money for a new person?
Well, we couldn't guess. It's going into reserve. It's going into reserve fund. It's going into their capital reserve. So, anyway.
It's kind of depressing how little the three of you value the library.
Well, that's not true. You know, I guess just a broader point, you know, there's plenty of people, I donate to the library personally, and there are plenty of people that do, and there are plenty of people that think the world of the library and the Opera House and the community center. I donate to all of those. And I think that's one thing that's missing is all of those entities have great opportunities to raise money. Yeah. And I don't think they do much of an effort. You know, the Historical Society, they identified a problem. They had moisture problems, they had mold problems down there. They sent a letter, they needed $6,700 to fix it. Well, they had a real purpose, they had a real need. They wrote a letter and they raised $7,500 in less than 3 weeks. It's because people care, and people care about all these entities, and I don't think they utilize their fundraising abilities anywhere near that they could and should. Pardon me?
It's literally what tax dollars are for, is like a donation from this huge community to the parts of the thing to support our strong community.
Andrew, good. With the library, there's been a lot of discussion over the year about different issues. The one thing that kind of made this year a little bit different is there is some new presence on the board, some new leadership, and they're in the process of reviewing a lot of things that they do and how they do them and the cost of it. One of the issues with the part-time librarian was that they were going to be providing full benefits for a part-time librarian working 20 hours a week that would effectively give the remuneration rate to the part-time librarian at a higher rate than the full-time librarians. So anyway, it was evident that they needed to rethink this stuff, and basically the response from the budget committee was that I think you need to take a year, you need to sort through your personnel policy, reevaluate everything, come back with a real structure, and then represent next year and in a more cohesive fashion. Over the years, I can't tell you how many times the library has asked for a new heating system. They don't need a new heating system. They need to figure out exactly what they need to do to their heating system, but just asking for a new heating system without really understanding what the problem is doesn't address the problem and will not provide a solution.
Any other questions?
I'd like to add that this is a Carnegie Library, and I'm sure you're all aware of Bank of Carnegie's philanthropic, donations to the country. This looks like it's a building improvement fund, and so if we don't keep up the building, it'll just end up decrepit. And that seems to be, a problem in the long run, obviously. I think $15,000 towards keeping the library's building going is probably a good idea. It's, we're constantly complaining about putting money into the library. It's, like this lady says, it's publicly funded.
I could respond in a larger, nobody's unfeeling to the library. I mean, but when they ask for $15,000, they gotta really know what they can use the $15,000 for. And that has not proven to be the case. I mean, anytime, once they, and I think the new presence that they have on their board is gonna improve that situation significantly, but, you know, that hasn't happened yet, but I would expect by voting time next year, it will. We have put a lot of money into that library over the years, created handicapped access and improved many, many things on it, so it's not like we've been not attending to it, but we don't want to just throw $15,000 at it without knowing what we're going to get for an answer.
They've never actually misused funds.
Well,
There's no history of fund misuse at the library.
I'm not sure if I can necessarily say that or what constitutes misuse, but, you know, when you ask for $15,000 for a heating system and you don't replace the heating system, then, you know, where did the money really go? So, but we'll kind of leave it at that. I would say by next year, they will have a much better plan and it will be well heard.
Karen's just going to add something.
I've been working with a few members of the library trustees for the last 3 or 4 months, very closely trying to help them review their personnel policies, review different items related to benefits, and talk to them about different issues that they're facing at the library. And they came in with a $15,000 amount, and they do have some items over there that they'd like to improve. I know there's a wall that's very, very cold when you're sitting next to it. And this is a town building. If there are some improvements for energy, it will help save the town some money because we do support the library.
Go ahead.
As a taxpayer, not a politician sitting at the front table, I can say things a little different than they can. Originally, and I've been attending all these meetings lately, originally they came in $15,000 for a part-time person. And basically the board was saying, wait a minute, we're not gonna support that. All of a sudden they come in $15,000 for repairs. Sounds to me like the library is pulling some shenanigans here. They're gonna get $15,000 from the taxpayers no matter how they do it. Also, the comment made here was that there's everybody wants a library. No, not everybody wants a library. It's a waste of money with all the computer systems, everything else we had today. The library, the community center, the town, the opera house, they're all a waste of money, especially when you get a 2.59 cent tax increase that a lot of seniors in this town cannot afford to pay. Okay, we don't need to be putting money, and this is a bad year to be putting money into improvement funds or just funds where the money's going to sit there. It's a bad year to do that.
Thank you. Yes.
I would like to speak as the chair of the board of the library. There are no shenanigans in the library.
As a taxpayer, I'm not a politician, so I can say things a little different, but I'm sure what it could be, because I've been at every one of these meetings, when you go from $15,000 part-time to $15,000 all of a sudden for improvements, it looks like you're trying to pull some shenanigans to get $15,000 no matter what the taxpayer.
We'll let the chairman comment.
We just hired a new director at the library. We do have building issues. We have possible mold and mildew in the basement. We have, I don't know if you've been sitting in the library lately, it's freezing, it's so hot you feel like taking all your sweaters off, freezing again. So we do have some problems with the boiler, and we are going to have someone come in and assess the needs. We need some replacements of windows. We have a laundry list of improvements that are needed, and we're excited about getting a new librarian next month. So good things are happening, no shenanigans, and we do need some money in that area. And like Steve said, we'll come in next year with, I guess, a more detailed account of what we need for repairs.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no more questions or comments, I'll go on to the petition warrant article, Grafton County Senior Center. Shall the voters raise and appropriate $34,000 to the Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, Inc., through the Littleton Area Senior Center and Service Link Resources Center for services for Littleton residents in 2017. These services include congregate meals, home delivered meals, transportation, outreach support services for 696 Littleton residents, and Service Link provided services for 106 residents. The cost of providing these services was $403,151.85. Estimated tax impact, 4.7 cents per thousand. The Selectmen passed over, I believe, this article. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-1, 1 abstention. Any questions or comments? Mary?
Yes. Now, you say the selectmen did not vote on that one? So will it read not recommended by the selectmen, or will that just be, say, not voted on? Because it really looks like it's not recommended by the selectmen.
Yeah, the Department of Revenue Administration, when we pass over and don't vote, it has to be stated at the bottom of the warrant article that we voted no. I attended a hearing this morning in Concord. There is a bill that Representative Hennessy has put forward to get us out of this bind, not just us, but all the selectmen in the state. And there were 5 of us that spoke in favor of the bill. There were 2 who spoke against the bill. There were some hard questions raised to us, but we don't know yet if that bill is going to go forward or not, but we clearly are very frustrated here. We feel, for whatever reasons, personally, we may vote for every one of these that we passed over individually, but as selectmen, we passed over it. We don't have enough information. I'll call it timely operational information on a lot of these, if not all of these petitioned articles, like we do from Joe's department or from the police department, or the town departments. We have a wealth of data which is very timely and current, and we can help make decisions in our budget for these departments based on what we know. We have no way of knowing at that level, and that was the issue that I posed this morning. So anyway, that's why it has to be that way. The DRA requires us to write it that way.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Petition warrant article, Boys and Girls Club. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to support the Boys and Girls Club of the North Country in order to provide a healthy, safe, and productive after-school and vacation camp environment for children from Littleton and other area towns. Estimated tax impact, 1.4 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to pass over, and recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions on Article 27 or comments? Yes.
Would this be for the support of an existing program or the creation of a new?
An existing program. I believe it's operated out of the town of Lisbon. Yes. Any other questions or comments? Article 28. Petition warrant article to support center at Birch House. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,080 for the support center at Birch House. These funds will support essential domestic and sexual violence prevention services and emergency shelter for victims and survivors in the community. Estimated tax impact is 0.4 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to their passover. Recommended by the Budget Committee, 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions about Article 28? Article 29, petition warrant article, Northern Human Services. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,696 as the town's contribution to the White Mountain Mental Health and Common Ground programs of Northern Human Services, serving the mental health and development service needs of Littleton residents. Tax impact is 1.3 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen by passover. Not recommended by Budget Committee, 6-1 with 1 abstain. Any questions on Article 29? Petition warrant article, Tri-County Transit, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,000 in support of the Tri-Town Public Bus Service. Estimated tax impact is 1.5 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to the Passover. Recommended by Budget Committee 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions or comments on Article 30? Article 31, petition warrant article, Tri-County Community Association, or action, to see if the town of Littleton will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,000 for Tri-County Community Action, Grafton County, for the purpose of continuing services of the Fuel Assistance Program for the residents of Littleton. Estimated tax impact is 1.5 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to the Passover, and recommended by the Budget Committee 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions or comments for Article 31? Article 32, petition warrant article, Ammonoosuc Community Health. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 for Ammonoosuc Community Health Services, ACHS. ACHS is a nonprofit community health center that provides primary preventative health care to anyone, regardless of their ability to pay. This will help ACHS continue to provide high-quality care to 2,119 current Littleton patients, as well as reach much more of those in need. Estimated tax impact is 2 cents per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to the Passover, and recommended by the Budget Committee 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions on Article 32? Article 33. Petition warrant article for Caleb Caregivers, to see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 for support of the Caleb Caregivers, Inc., a nonprofit organization helping seniors live independently. Estimated tax impact is 1 cent per thousand. Not recommended by selectmen due to the Passover. Recommended by Budget Committee 6-1 with 1 abstention. Any questions about the final article? Seeing none? No.
Are there any final questions here today?
We did skip over 2 from the beginning.
You skip, oh, I'm sorry, number 2.
So earlier, we started with a bond hearing, and because of that, we skipped over the first 2 articles. So just to go back to Article 1, election of officers, to choose necessary officers, including 1 selectman, 3-year term, 1 trustee of trust funds, 1 3-year term, 1 Parks Commissioner, 1 3-year term, 3 Library Trustees, 3-year terms, 1 Library Trustee of 2-year term. Any questions on Article 1? Article 2, amendment to the zoning ordinance. Are you in favor of adopting the amendments to the zoning ordinance as proposed by the Planning Board to extend the boundaries of the industrial zone to include a 115-acre parcel of property which abuts the current industrial zone, which is owned by Littleton Industrial Development Corporation and identified as MAP Lot 102-7. The property is currently in the rural zone. Any questions?
Yeah, this over here, it's no tax impact for 2017.
Neither of these have a tax impact for 2017.
In no year.
In no year, yeah.
No yet.
Yep.
That doesn't mean, you know, if the citizens all the time, they don't understand that they vote yes, right? About 2018, how much is going to be?
Nothing.
Nothing? What do you mean nothing?
Zoning doesn't have a tax impact.
Excuse me?
Zoning does not have a tax impact.
No, you don't have to fix the property on top of that? You don't have, you don't.
Zoning doesn't affect the tax.
Yes. Where are you going to get the money to make sure that that property it's suitable for building? Where you going to get the money? The owners. Oh, you're right. Like they did in the river district, right?
We own the, no.
Come on, please. That doesn't mean, okay, it's not tax impact to 2017, right?
No tax impact.
Okay, then everybody vote yes to develop that property, okay?
So the article would be to change the, I lost the battery. The article would be to change the 150-acre parcel, 115-acre parcel from rural to industrial. That's all it would do at this point.
you're gonna be with the, at this point.
That's all this article will do.
Then the next year, you're gonna have another article or something like that.
I couldn't speak to that.
Okay, all right, we got it, no worry about it, we take it.
I'd like just to make a comment about Article 2. So Article 2 is being zoned from rural to industrial. Basically, there are many abutters that are against this proposal for Article 2 because it is zoned rural. And 2 years ago, Tender Core was proposing to build, LIDC wanted a Tender Core to build on. Now we know that Tender Core is built on industrial, which is a better location anyway for them. But this rezoning of the same lot, which is right at the top of the mountain on Mount Eustis, which, you know, is our beautiful view and also just a beautiful pristine mountain. It's Mount Eustis. If we were to rezone it to industrial, right now LIDC doesn't have a plan for it. They just want to rezone it. We don't know what would end up going there. We can trust LIDC will do the right thing, but at any rate, do we want to change our zoning on a whim all the time, especially from rural to something like industrial? That's a huge change, okay? And when we bought our property, we did not expect this to change. When you purchase property in Littleton, do you want to know that your zoning is secure? Yes. You do not want to, you know, have the rug pulled out from under you. So a lot of the abutters and a lot of the residents that just, you know, live in the area are really concerned about rezoning. The zoning board, planning board are really setting a precedent if they do rezone it. We're going to be fighting for everyone to vote no on Article 2, and I really am urging the voters to vote no on Article 2.
I believe that Article 2 should not even be in this list. That's my belief. Because Article 2, if the people don't understand what they vote on, it's going to be a lot of tax money involved with this thing over here. Yes, it is. You don't say no. You say no, I'm a real district too. You see how much it costs us. You know, I know the zoning and, you know, you prefer whatever you want to prefer.
All right, thank you, Rudy. Any other questions? Or?
Somehow I missed the first part of this meeting. I don't know if you started earlier or I just missed it.
The bond
I
hearing
know,
started at 5.
Yeah, but wasn't this meeting supposed to start at 6?
It said on the notice that as soon as the bond hearing finished, it would turn over into this
I
meeting.
missed that somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, what I missed was, with your proposed budget right now, you're looking at a 7.62 cent town tax, correct? That's what I'm looking at, 7.62 cent town tax?
That's the total amount. You know, we're spending about that amount right now.
Right.
So the increase will be, you know, a small amount beyond that. Karen went over that a little earlier.
I know.
Right.
I missed that. But we're actually looking, on top of that 2.59% we already got hit with unexpectedly, we're looking at another increase for this year. 33 cents per thousand on a proposed budget, or 14 cents per thousand on the default budget. So that proposed budget, which the last meeting I attended was actually less than the default budget, now it's higher.
We put the police car into the budget. The police car, remember, had, we took it off the warrant, we put it in.
What about the town trucks? That take it off, put it in the
No,
budget?
that's still
Okay,
there.
that's why the police department's up to $94,000.
Here's one of the problems with the Senate Bill 2 community that we are. You know, we operate under not a town hall, town meeting, you know, process. We vote twice, right? We vote at the deliberative session, or we recommend at the deliberative session if there's going to be any changes in the bottom line of the budget, that's where it occurs. But then you vote in a separate meeting in March, it increases our rate of voting from 80 or 90 people at midnight to 1,500 in March, right? So that was the change that we made. The problem is, or not the problem, one of the issues is you can create all these warrant articles to keep your budget and your default pretty close to each other. If they get too close and they match, people say, you know, you're not giving us a choice here. So one of the options we had this time, because the police chief has argued for years that those cars are part of his equipment. They should be in his budget. Of course, if you have enough trucks and cars and maybe a fire truck in the budget gets to be so much further away from the default that it's an automatic no. So Senate Bill 2 people, and we're all Senate 2 people, Senate Bill 2 people, we now deal with this default budget and the regular budget. We had the option this year to add that police car back in because the two are so close to each other, as you probably know. And as Ron's gone. As Ron said, some years it's in, some years it's out. But it's one of the dynamics that Senate Bill 2 communities deal with in terms of their budget process. Unlike a regular old town meeting where you go, you know, and either vote it all up or down, including the warrant articles. So we enhance our voting numbers, but we get into this sort of confused issue. But that's why that happened. We put the police car back in.
I don't know why they went up so high, but regardless of where that police car is, we're still looking at overall increase in town budget.
That's right. Yeah, sure. And so, if you think about the tax impact, if you look at what's on your sheet for tax impact, now those are based on estimates for the 2016 appraisal. And there's really three major components to the tax when turning into tax impact.
2016 tax rate on your taxes, right?
So that is, but it's based, what I'm explaining is it's based on a 2016 valuation, so what the properties are actually worth.
Right.
So what some of the developments that we've already been seeing to increase that are, you know, Tender Corp, you know, Brooks Building, some more development within the River District. Also thinking about some of the additional revenue in the future that could be brought on by the industrial park. But and the dam. The dam was the major contributor of a price drop. So we have to actually look at that issue again this year to set the dam's new value. So
when
those.
When the dam lost valuation, after the town tax rate had been set back in March, then the dam lost valuation. The town tax rate went up that extra 2.59%, unexpected to taxpayers. If you reevaluate Tender or some of these others, even Harbor Freight down there, or whoever, and your valuation goes up, will the taxpayers see an unexpected reduction in that tax rate?
That's one of the components, so it is a possibility.
I just wanted to do just a very brief overview of this larger paper that you got. Close to the midsection of it, you can see where it says 2017 estimated default budget tax rate with all warrant articles. The estimate is $8.16. The town tax rate with the budget and all the warrant articles last year was $8.57. So it's a reduction of 41 cents per thousand. If the 2017 estimated proposed budget passes with all the warrant articles, we're looking at $8.26. So the difference is a decrease of 31 cents per thousand. And this is based on 2016 valuation, and this is only an estimate. And this is for the town only.
So then that adds up to a decrease in the tax rate.
Correct.
Okay.
Of course, your entire tax rate involves the school part of it as well as the, you know, the county and the state tax.
But the school is coming in with an 83 cents per thousand deduction.
Right. Right.
We're only coming in with, how much did you say per 30 cents? the town voting that?
Well,
Way ahead.
yeah, the school also has a $17 million budget versus our 7 or 8 million. I mean, you're dealing with different size numbers.
I realize that, but you're also different with a whole total different entity. I'm looking as a taxpayer what's coming out of my pocket, which is a tax rate. The town gave us back 83 cents this year. The town's given back 30 cents. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Are there any final comments here? Hearing none, I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and we will close. What?
I don't believe anybody's here. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's not up to me.
That's a pretty uncomfortable statement to make in a public hearing. I don't want to say anything about it.
No, you heard you were going to sing God Bless America.
What's the question here?
We had an agency that approached us about a warrant article that should have been received by the town, did not get received by the town. We were expecting them to attend this meeting. They have not.
They have the opportunity to do so at deliberative session.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Okay, thank you all again for being here. I'll close this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.